My beloved child, there are steps you take that make you believe life is against you. Yet in truth it is those rough stretches of the road where I am training your feet to grow stronger. You once wondered why some people seem to walk lightly while you keep stumbling over invisible stones. But I tell you that the smoothness of the path does not determine your worth. It is the depths of your falls that teach you what it means to rise with strength that does not come from yourself. Like a toddler learning to walk, you cling to the wall. You grasp the hand of an adult. You tremble when the floor is no longer a soft surface. But what makes the child mature is not the floor, it is the legs. You look at your exhaustion and assume it is a sign of failure. But I look at that same exhaustion and know that the muscles of your soul are forming. Each fall teaches you that strength is not found in always standing tall, but in still wanting to rise after every collapse. I do not demand that your steps be perfect or graceful. I only desire that you step forward. The first stairs always unsettle the arms and legs. And in the same way, the spiritual journey always begins with awkward steps. I do not look at the way you fall, I look at the way you rise. At times you blame me for not leveling the worn paths, for not covering the sinkholes, for not lifting you away from potholes that wound you. But, my child, I did not create you to be a soul who can walk only when the road is gentle. If every step were effortless, your feet would grow weak, and your soul would fracture at the first unexpected shock. I know the turns that frighten you, yet I also know that within them you learn to distinguish between true darkness and darkness that is merely misunderstanding. You ask me for a new road, but I offer you new feet. You ask me to remove every obstacle, but I teach you how to step over them, like a potter pushing clay to its limits so it may take a firm shape. I allow your soul to feel pressure so that you will understand your limitations are not your end but the beginning of endurance. You think I want you to win quickly, but I desire that you mature deeply. A victory without discipline feeds arrogance, but a fall followed by rising nourishes humility. You are not thrown into hardship, you are forged within it. My child, remember this: a smooth road may take you to where you want to go, but a difficult road takes you to where I intend. Many times you choose shortcuts, thinking they are a sign that I am opening the way, when you are merely avoiding the lessons your soul needs. I do not send you to peaceful lands so you may fall asleep in comfort. I send you to uneven paths so you may discover that true stability lies within you. When you collapse from exhaustion, I do not mock you. I place my hand upon your shoulder and remind you. My strength is revealed in weakness, not so you will depend on suffering, but so you may know that your worth is not tied to your ability to stand by your own power. You keep thinking I will lift you away from every stumble, yet I place my hand beneath you after each stumble, so you may know that I never leave your side. Easy roads make you forget me, but difficult ones make you remember me. When you feel so weary that you cannot continue, remember that your legs are still growing. I know there are days when you wish for nothing but peace, no trials, no collisions, no new lessons. But my child, a young tree raised inside a greenhouse may be beautiful, yet the first gust in the field will break it. I want your soul to know how to stand in the wind, to hold through the rain, to push itself through the cracks of the earth, because you are not living only for the present, you are living for the seasons to come. Every life has to pass through lands of trial so the feet may learn to feel the ground. One who walks only on velvet will never recognize the sharpness of a small stone. But a soul that has once ached from such stones will understand that the scratches of today become tomorrow's steadiness. I do not form you to be fragile, I teach you to become rooted. Not so you will become hardened, but so you will not be carried away by the winds of life. My child, your journey is not a performance, it is a maturation. I do not compare you with anyone, because every soul has its own terrain to master. What makes you stumble is not the imperfection of the path, but the unfamiliarity of your feet. When you see others moving quickly, you assume I favor them, yet speed does not equal strength. One who runs on flat ground may win swiftly, but the one who knows how to step across stones will go far. I do not promise you an easy life, but I have given you something better, the ability to stand firm on every terrain. When you look up and see a long road stretching into the unknown, remember that no one can walk that road in your place. And in every step, I am there not to smooth the ground, but to steady your heart. Believe this. My child, your unfinished legs are testimony to the journey I am writing. And every time you walk forward, trembling or not, you are becoming what I have destined you to be. There are seasons when everything around you seems to break apart. Things that once felt safe no longer stand. Plans you believed were certain suddenly become pieces without a place. In those times your heart quickly assumes I am closing doors because you are not good enough. That every shaking is punishment for what you have done wrong. But you must know that none of your steps ever make me turn away. I do not use hardship to end your path. I use refinement to lay deep foundations in places your eyes cannot see. When a bridge is built across an abyss, people do not pour concrete on the surface. First, they reinforce the pillars beneath. You only feel the trembling of the bridge deck, while I am strengthening the support structure beneath it. That is not abandonment. It is the beginning of a foundation you have never possessed. If you only lived in ease, your soul would become as fragile as a seed that has never touched soil. I do not let you walk only on flat ground because a soul raised on comfort will shatter at the first touch of wind. Understand that refinement is not the imposition of suffering, but the permission for the soul to encounter what it must face in life. A sapling will never learn to stand if it grows only within a greenhouse. It must feel the weight of the air, the noise of the world, and the coldness of soil embracing its roots. So when you go through changes that defy explanation, it is not because I am pushing you away. I am making you strong enough for the roads ahead. You may not see the reason for every collision, but I see your path farther than your own sight. I am like the potter in Isaiah 6:4-8, neither shaping in haste nor striking the clay, because it is imperfect. The potter patiently turns the wheel, pressing his hands gently into the pliable surface to form the curve. Only he understands. It is not because the clay lacks value, but because it carries a shape still concealed within. When I touch you, I do not search for faults to punish. I search for the potential hidden beneath. The parts of you you cannot see because you focus only on your roughness. A finished work of art does not begin with outward beauty, it begins with softness, willing to be reshaped. You think I only mend where you are weak, but I also reach into the places where you believe you are strong. For some of those strengths were built out of self-defense rather than peace. I do not want you to live armored. I want you to live upon foundations built in the secret depths. Inner refining is always quieter than outward punishment, yet its strength endures longer than all the praise or criticism a person may receive in life. I allow you to walk through moments that seem meaningless so that you may learn to discern the voice of truth from the echoes of fear. If I let everything unfold according to your wishes, you would mistakenly believe that the soul matures by having its desires fulfilled. But true growth comes not when you ask why things are difficult, but when you ask what is being formed within you through those difficulties. Refining does not exist to prove that you are lacking. It exists to free you from shallow beliefs, from habits that seem safe but slowly erode your endurance. When I take away what you cling to, it is not to leave you empty, but to create space for what is genuine to be placed within you. A firm foundation cannot be measured by the naked eye. It does not glitter. It is not displayed. It does not make anyone marvel. Yet it is the very thing that keeps a house standing when the storm arrives. Refining may make you feel isolated, but I know you are not alone. I do not stand above watching you wrestle with life. I am present in the smallest movements of your soul. like a craftsman inspecting every crack in a clay vessel to prevent it from shattering in the kiln. You see the present. I see the parts of your life you have not yet walked into. Do not hastily assume that every hardship is punishment. See them as supports placed in advance, so that when the wind blows, you are no longer swept away by fragile things. A soul that has been refined no longer fears steep roads, because it knows that stability does not come from the terrain, but from the foundation already laid within. There are people who walk at dawn, when the sun has not fully risen above the horizon and the streets still rest in silence. No one witnesses them. There is no applause or praise, only the sound of steps touching the ground with steady rhythm, the gentle breeze brushing past the trees, and the breath reminding them that they are alive. That quietness does not bring excitement, but it grants the soul a deep stability that no moment of noise can offer. You might assume I come only in radiant moments, when the mind blazes, when ideas surge and stir your heart. But true closeness is not born from those peaks. It is like the breath of early morning. No one remembers how many times they inhale. But without it, life would leave you instantly. My closeness is the same, not ostentatious, not demanding explanation, yet sustaining your soul steadily in every passing moment. My child, do not mistake fleeting emotion for my presence. Emotions are like waves crashing against a rocky shore, arriving quickly, disappearing quickly, roaring loudly, and then vanishing as if they never existed. My presence is not the wave, but the stone that gives the wave a place to dissolve. Many seek me through emotional intensity, through spiritual peaks, through prayers that make their hearts tremble, and they believe that such moments are when I am closest. But closeness to me does not depend on the strength of feeling, it depends on the depth of trust. When you walk steadily, like a morning wanderer, unhurried, without chasing excitement, your soul is learning the language of endurance. I do not come to ignite fire in you and leave you among ashes. I come to plant a light in you that stands firm, even when emotions grow quiet. It is not only when your heart overflows that I am near. Many times, silence itself is the sign that I am in every breath. You have become accustomed to the world's measure of success by peaks, and so you expect your life of faith to be filled with dazzling moments. But a mature soul is not born in thunder. It is born from quiet habits, from small choices, unseen by anyone. The morning walker does not rush to prove anything. They walk steadily because the body needs rhythm to remain healthy. Likewise, closeness to me is not about whether you can create emotional moments, but about whether you have the patience to nurture each step of our communion. No one applauds when you choose to forgive in silence. No one acknowledges when you remain quiet in the face of insult. No one knows when you pray without ornate words, yet these are the soul's morning walks in me. They do not make you radiant at once, but they place within you a strength of peace that no storm can take away. I know you once believed that spiritual strength must feel fierce, a flame bursting forth that makes you feel driven. But the strength I give is not the blaze, it is perseverance. A great flame may light up a room, but it also fades easily when there is no fuel. A small, steady lamp is enough to guide you through the entire night. When you pass through unremarkable days, when life unfolds with quiet normalcy, when prayer is only gentle whispering, no drama, no emotional surge, it is then that you are learning how to live near me. I do not seek to intoxicate you. I want you to know how to lean on me. Faith is not lightning in a moment, it is the wide sky that can hold both thunder and silence. I am in both, but endurance is born only in silence. My child, listen closely and engrave this upon your heart. The purpose of closeness is not so that you may feel stronger, but so that you may be upheld even when you feel weak. I do not require you to burn brightly at all times. I ask you to keep the lamp within from going out. A peaceful walk does not make your heart race, but it preserves the body's strength for many days to come. In the same way, the moments you come to me in stillness, without intense emotion, without expectation of reward, are the nourishment that grows your soul resilient. Do not seek me in emotional peaks, only to abandon me when the feeling fades. Instead, allow me to remain with you in every breath, so that the strength you possess no longer depends on what you feel, but on the one who dwells within you. There are seasons when you step into a land where every direction becomes vague, as if walking through a valley with no footprints from those who came before. You look around and see only silent walls of stone, closed doors, paths without signs. Your soul sinks into the feeling of being abandoned, isolated, forgotten, and you ask me why I allow you to fall into such a place. But let your heart settle. Trials do not come to defeat you. They come to illuminate what you have never seen within yourself. When everything goes well, you easily believe that your faith is enough, that your endurance is secure, that your soul has matured. Only when you are placed at the point where there is no option but to go forward, do you realize how many layers within you remain undiscovered. A trial is not a verdict. It is a mirror reflecting the inner world. No dazzling lights, no fireworks, only you, what you believe, what you fear, what you cling to, and what you must release. I do not bring you there to break you. I bring you there so that you may know you are not the weak soul you once imagined yourself to be. There are times when trials do not arrive through some great catastrophe, but through long, ordinary days in which the soul cannot find meaning. Every prayer feels as though it hits a stone wall. Every effort seems to disappear into nothingness, and you worry that I have turned my back on you. But a trial does not need to be loud to leave a mark. It can be as subtle as the night wind passing through an empty garden. In the moments when you feel most exhausted, you learn to ask the right question instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is being revealed within me?" In that space, you will see the things you once tried to hide, the longing to be acknowledged, the fear of being left behind, the habit of running when pain strikes, or the confusion that arises when you no longer depend on your own abilities. I do not merely want you to overcome circumstances. I want you to understand your own soul. When you understand yourself, you will discover that much of your suffering does not come from events, but from the heart's reaction to them. A trial brings you to the place where you must look at that truth, not to wear you down, but to free you from what binds you. As it is written in Psalm 23, "Even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am with you. I do not stand at the end of the road waiting for you to arrive. I walk through the valley with you. When fear closes in, you believe you are the only one trembling, but that trembling merely exposes the truth that you are still fragile, still learning how to rely on me instead of external structures. No one likes to walk through dark valleys. You only want green pastures and quiet waters. But if you live only in peace, the soul will confuse true peace with mere comfort. Only when you step into darkness does the difference become clear. True peace remains even when tears fall, even when clouds overshadow you, even when your breathing grows heavy. Emotions may panic, but faith does not depart from where I stand beside you. I do not promise that the valley will vanish. I promise that you will not walk through it alone. This is not an empty reassurance. It is the reality of my companionship. A trial is like a lamp illuminating pathways in the mind that you usually overlook. When your steps slow because of fear, you will see clearly what you have been relying on: the praise of others, the sense of safety born from control, the obsession with appearing strong so no one will mock you. These things may help you walk quickly when the road is smooth, but they will abandon you when you need deeper endurance. I use trials not to strip you of what you have, but to test whether you have placed the weight of your soul upon things that cannot bear it. When you lean on something that cannot sustain you, it will break, not to destroy you, but to teach you how to choose where to stand. A trial does not take away your worth, it only removes illusion. You do not need to become flawless before facing trials, you only need to see the truth of your own heart. My child, remember this, you do not fail because you enter a trial. You only fail when you believe that the trial defines who you are. It does not come to give your soul a name. It comes to remove the names you imposed upon yourself. It does not push you off your path. It leads you into the depth you have been avoiding. When you understand that the trial is not an enemy, you will stop resisting it with fear and face it with peace. And when that peace becomes steady within you, the trial will lose its power to rule you. You are not the result of what you go through, you are the one who grows because of it. That understanding not only helps you stand firm, it frees you from the need to prove that you are strong. I do not wait for you to triumph in order to love you. I love you so that you may triumph. There are first steps that make your soul stagger, not because you are weak, but because your feet are not yet familiar with the ground beneath them. I do not push you into trials and then step back like a distant observer. I walk beside you, close enough that you can barely notice, like a hand extended not to carry you, but to show you that you can lean on it, like a father supporting a child who is learning to walk. I do not grip your wrist to pull you faster, nor do I let you fall just to see how much pain you can endure. I hold lightly at one point, just enough for you to feel my presence, yet still allowing your feet to find their own balance, not so you would fall into despair, but so you would know that growth is not a miracle I impose on you. It is a skill you learn when you are willing to take one more step after every moment of trembling. I do not look for perfection in your strides, I look for the courage within them. When you grow accustomed to being carried, I will let your feet touch the ground, not because I want you to fend for yourself, but because only feet that stand can learn how to stay steady. As when a child reaches a staircase too high for its small body, a father will let the child place a hand on the railing not to cling forever, but to see that support is always present when needed. I also set you before such staircases change, uncertain decisions, relationships you do not yet know how to enter or how to leave. You think I am waiting for you to get everything right before I help. But what I wait for is not correctness, it is willingness. I know the weight of every step you take. I know how the knees tremble when the soul is unfamiliar with the terrain of life. And just as a child must learn how to climb steps, you must learn to face what was once beyond your reach. I do not pull you up the stair. I offer the railing so you may use your own strength. There are moments when you accuse me of silence in your confusion, but silence is not abandonment. I step half a pace back so that you may feel the rhythm of your own inner life, like a father standing nearby, saying nothing as the child tries to walk, because words at that moment would only disrupt the concentration required. I once held you when you knew nothing. But as time goes on, I want your soul to experience its own strength. A person whose hand is held forever will forget that they have feet. A soul always waiting for miracles will never take a step unless it sees a sign. I did not form you to be afraid of walking. I formed you to understand that confidence is not born from me, carrying you through every road, but from realizing that I remain beside you while you learn to walk. I do not leave you to fend for yourself. I let you grow. Sometimes you will fall, scraping your knee, and your instinct is to turn back to me and accuse. Why didn't you hold me? But some scrapes matter more than perfect walls of protection. A small pain is enough to show you where to place your foot more firmly, not to avoid failure, but to distinguish haste from steadiness. A father does not push a child when they fall, nor does he scold them for not standing perfectly. He simply extends a hand, lifts them up, dusts them off, smiles, and lets the child try again. I am the same. I do not judge you when you stumble. I do not count your failures. I do not turn mistakes into a sentence. I only remind you to rise. For only those who have fallen know how to walk firmly. You will come to understand something simple yet profound. Every fall does not close the door on the journey. It opens another layer of self-understanding. And when at last you stand, no longer clinging to the railing, no longer needing me to hold your wrist, I do not withdraw from you. I simply move into the quietest chamber of your mind, like the warmth of the early sun that no longer strikes your eyes, yet has already seeped into your skin. You will find me in gentle peace, not in explosions of emotion. Maturity does not arrive in a single radiant moment of triumph. It comes through steady steps, understood only by those who have dared to walk unsteadily. I do not stand afar, nor do I sit above you in judgment. I walk beside you in every awkward step, so that you yourself may witness how your soul takes shape. And one day, when you look back at the road you have traveled, you will not say, "I overcame everything," but whisper, "I never once had to walk alone." There are quiet expectations in your heart that command me to speak a single word, so that every weakness within you will disappear and you will become strong overnight. You wish for endurance to appear immediately like a flash of light in the darkness. You wish for faith to mature by a supernatural touch. You wish for the path before you to be firm without having to walk through stretches of gravel and stone. But the strength of the soul is not born from explosive moments. It is formed through process, through each unseen step, through the days when you believe you have slowed down. Spiritual legs do not grow through excitement, but through steady steps, like the rhythm of a heartbeat sustaining life. A heart cannot beat once with full force and then stop. It must beat continuously. In the same way, your soul cannot live on one miracle and remain still. It must learn to live by the rhythms of peace placed deep within me. In Matthew 13, I spoke, "A sower went out to sow. Some fell on good soil and yielded 100-fold. Some 60, some 30. There is no rushing there, no skipping through stages. Only the soil hidden, silent, patient. The seed does not rush to chase the light, does not demand noble conditions, does not complain because it is hidden beneath the dark earth. It simply lies there, letting its roots search downward, letting the soil cover it, letting time do the work that human eyes cannot see. You see only the silence of the earth, but I see the movement of life within it. Without soil, the seed would dry out. Without time, it would never sprout. What I do within you is no different. I do not thrust you upward into fleeting splendor. I allow you to rest through the seasons when you believe you are unnoticed, so that the roots of faith embed themselves in a lasting foundation. Waiting disturbs you because it is bare and absent of triumphant fanfare. You want me to place you instantly into maturity, but you do not yet understand that maturity is not a position, it is a root. Roots never grow above ground for applause. They always descend into darkness, into compressing earth, into moisture and pressure that forge endurance. If I were to lift you into the sky before you had roots, a single wind of life would carry you away like a leaf. I love you, so I do not do that. I let you walk through days when your prayers receive no clear answers, through seasons when you believe there is no progress, not because I have forgotten you, but because I am protecting you from shallowness. In shallow soil, seeds sprout quickly, yet are scorched by the sun in a single day. But good soil, as in that parable, allows the seed to endure darkness longer, so that when it finally rises, it no longer fears the sun. Instant miracles may bring you joy, but true endurance is born in process. When I turned water into wine, the crowd was astonished. But when I transform your soul from weakness to strength over months and years, no one marvels. Yet it is precisely that silence which is the greater miracle. Instant miracles touch circumstances, process touches essence. You want the path repaired, but I want your feet to become firm. You ask me to lift you over the valley, but I walk with you through the valley so that your legs learn to endure pressure without breaking. When you understand this, you will see that every slow step is not failure, but strength taking root. And one day, when the winds come, you will not need to beg me to keep you from the storm. You will stand, because the roots of faith have gripped the soil in which I planted you. Therefore, do not fear time, and do not despise the soil. Time is not your enemy. It is my companion in shaping your soul. The soil does not bury you. It is the embrace that shelters the fragile seed until it is ready. I am not rushed with you, for I am not building a blade of grass that withers quickly. I am forming a tree whose shade will shelter other souls. When you stop craving miracles that happen overnight, you will begin to recognize the miracle unfolding day by day. Every tear that sinks into the ground is nourishment. Every stumble softens the soil around the roots. Every time you rise again, the seed cracks a little more so life can emerge. And when you finally stand tall, no one will remember when you were buried, but I will remember. For I was there within the darkness, within the soil, within the time waiting for you to grow. There is a truth that a mature soul must learn through time, not through fleeting flames. Endurance is not born from speed, but from the ability to know when to pause and listen. You are too familiar with the rhythm of life that demands faster progress, greater achievement, and relentless proof that you are strong enough to overcome every obstacle. But I do not lead you by haste. I lead you by cadence. This cadence does not always align with the tense demands of the world. It is like the steady beating within your chest, not showy, not loud, yet the foundation that keeps you alive. When you move too quickly, you lose the sensitivity to feel how I am guiding each step, but when you pause at the right time, you open space for wisdom to enter. Not every pause is a retreat, nor is every movement a step forward. A resilient soul knows that exhaustion is not proof of devotion. It is a sign that you have forgotten the one who walks beside you. You once believed that running faster would bring you closer to your purpose. But the spiritual path is not a race. It is more like a long mountain trail. Wind brushing across rocky slopes. The ground changing colors with the seasons, and your steps adapting to each terrain. Some stretches require steadiness. Some only ask you to catch your breath. And some, I instruct you to stop entirely so that your soul can catch up with your body. When you pause in me, you do not lose progress, you simply avoid losing yourself within the progress. Many assume that speed proves faith, that the more urgently they chase what they believe is sacred, the more they show obedience to a heavenly call. But true faith is not blind sprinting, it is the capacity to sense timing. You pause not because you fear, but because you know where attention is required. Picture a traveler walking through the morning mist. He does not hasten to cut through the haze. He walks slowly, placing each step on familiar ground, waiting for light to reveal the way. That is the wisdom I want you to learn. There are stretches of the road I conceal, not because I desire to test you, but because you are not ready to see everything. Pausing is surrender, not failure. It is the act of acknowledging that I see more than your eyes can see. Sometimes you are afraid to stop because you have grown accustomed to relying on momentum, like a swimmer in the vast sea, fearing that if they pause, they will sink. But your soul is not drifting in a meaningless ocean. It is being held up by the water I have placed beneath it. The end of movement is not the loss of life. It is the chance for you to realize that the source of life does not reside in your own effort, but in me. When you rush forward to escape pain, you only make your soul more weary. like a climber who takes steps too quickly and gasps for breath before their feet have adjusted to the terrain. I do not ask you to conquer every obstacle in a single day. I ask you to know when to live slowly so your heart remains soft, rather than turning into stone under the pressure that grinds it down. There are people in the world who mistake stillness for laziness or giving up. But I see it differently. I see it as the moment you rest your hand on my shoulder and admit that you are not the source of your own strength. When you know how to stop, you are telling me that you trust me enough not to push yourself beyond your capacity. Just as a blacksmith waits for the metal to cool before tempering it again, you must allow your soul to rest so it does not crack under the heat of trials. If iron is struck without pause, it will shatter into fragments instead of becoming a resilient blade. Stillness is not merely good, it is necessary to form the person within you. I have seen you try to solve everything through speed, like a sapling straining to grow too fast to prove its strength. But the sapling does not know that the first monsoon winds will break it if its roots have not yet ventured deep. I do not want you to be the tree that the storm sweeps away. I want you to be the tree that stands firm through the seasons of tempest. For that to happen, you must learn to stand still in moments of silence, like a tree trunk listening to the earth beneath its feet. That stillness is where the soul takes root in me, in the peace I give that does not depend on circumstance. When the roots are deep, you can withstand the winds you once believed would knock you down. You have asked me why there are seasons when nothing seems to progress, why doors remain silent for so long, why prayers appear unanswered. My learning child, the answer is not always in continuing to move. Sometimes the answer lies in pausing so I can reset the direction. The world teaches you to move quickly because they fear being left behind. But I have not placed you in a race. You do not need to compare your distance to anyone else, because this journey has no first or last to arrive. Each person has a path I have written uniquely for them, and that path contains necessary places of rest. When you stop to listen to me, you discover that silence is often the place where I hide the clearest voice. Stillness is also the way I protect you from arrogance. When you only notice what you are able to do, you forget what I have preserved for you. When you keep running, you begin to believe that victory comes from your own abilities, and that is when the soul becomes most fragile. I have seen many who run fast, beyond their limits, only to collapse in the very moment that appears to be triumph. It was not because they lacked talent, but because they never learned how to pause at the right time. Stop to rest. Stop to breathe. Stop to remember that some things cannot be held by strength or strategy, but can only be held through surrender. Steady steps are not a chain of endless movement. They are the harmony between motion and stillness. Just as the sea has moments of calm and moments of waves, just as the heart contracts and expands, you too must know when to advance and when to stop. If you only know how to walk without knowing how to stand still, your strength will become your burden. But if you know how to rest in me, your steps will be steadier than anyone who rushes forward. The right moment of stillness is how the soul shields itself from exhaustion, a reminder that I do not measure your worth by the distance you have traveled, but by how you keep yourself in the light I give. There are moments in life when you look back at a wrong choice and feel as though your entire journey has shattered, as if one slip is enough to destroy all trust in yourself. But I tell you, this one wrong step cannot define you. You are a soul being shaped, growing through process, not a conclusion sealed after a single stumble. People often judge themselves by singular moments, but I see you through the entire pattern I am weaving in your soul. One misstep, one weak decision, one moment of clouded judgment does not turn you into a failure. For true failure does not reside in the fall, it resides in the decision never to rise again. As the ancient wisdom declared, the righteous fall 7 times and rise again, not to prove their strength, but because their roots run deeper than their fear. What makes you resilient is not that you have never fallen, but that you learn to stand up calmly without self-excuse, without shame, without abandoning yourself. Some souls treat every steady step as a trophy to display, turning each achievement into a flag they raise before others. But I remind you that one right step does not make you a hero. A right step is not evidence of your perfection. It is merely the sign that in one moment, you walked in the right direction. I do not want you to turn your successes into a throne, because when you build a throne from your right steps, you will tremble every time the wind changes. You will fear stumbling because you believe your identity is tied to outcomes. I do not want you to live like that. I do not call you the hero of yourself. I call you by the name I gave from the beginning, a child learning to walk in the light. Heroes are figures the world invents to lift onto pedestals, then eventually break. I do not need heroes. I need souls who open the door when I knock, who listen when I fall silent, who know how to breathe when I need them to stop. There are mistakes that make you think you have lost me, but in truth, you have only lost your sight of me. I have never withdrawn from you because of a wrong step. You may lose your way. You may wound yourself. You may imprison yourself in shame like a heavy cloak. But I stand waiting for you to realize that your fall is not an ending. I do not require that you never fall. I require that you return. Many people want achievements, want praise for being right. But I look deeper. I look for the heart that can rise after failure without blaming others, without justifying its confusion, without building an armor of pride to hide its weakness. A soul that can accept its mistakes without rejecting itself is a soul that can grow in my light. There are seasons when a misstep makes you tremble before every step that follows, like a climber who slips and then fears placing their hand on the next ledge, even if it is only a short reach. You think wisdom means never slipping, but true wisdom is knowing how to take the next step with clarity, not panic. I do not need you to place a perfect step. I need you to place an honest step. If you walk in fear, your steps will be only avoidance, and you will build your life upon avoidance. Like someone who always takes detours just to avoid tripping. If you walk in arrogance, you will treat success as possession, and one day you will ache when success does not come as easily as before. But if you walk in integrity, you will not walk to prove yourself, nor run to flee from pain. You will walk as a student who understands that each step is only part of a long journey. Each scrape is only a lesson, and each victory is only a gentle reminder that I am still guiding you. Many souls are obsessed with seeking the right steps to prove their worth. They gather achievements like weapons to protect their self-esteem. And then, when a single failure arrives, they collapse entirely like a sandcastle after a wave. Do not walk that way. Your worth is not measured by a sequence of flawless steps, nor erased by a handful of falls. Your worth lies in the truth that I knew you before you knew yourself. I loved you even before you could love me, and I guarded you even when you curled yourself into the shadows out of shame. The humility I desire for you is not bowing your head before the world, but letting go of the habit of seeing yourself as a project that must be proven. You do not need to become a hero. You only need to be honest. You only need to keep walking in the light I give you, even if at times that light is only enough to illuminate a single step before you. There are times when you fall, but that fall does not diminish my trust in you. I do not look at a soul through fleeting mistakes. I look through the path to which I am leading you. If I judged you only by missteps, I would never have placed my hand upon your life. I do not seek perfection. I seek cooperation. I do not demand that you walk rightly at all times. I desire that you return to me whenever you lose your way. A wrong step does not make you a failure. A right step does not make you a hero. Both are simply the rhythms of the journey, and that journey is always with me. There are seasons when you stand before your path, and the ground appears like a vast white canvas with no marks, no landmarks, no sign of where to turn. In those moments, your soul wants to run ahead to see farther, to seize the entire map so you can avoid every wound. But I do not place your wisdom in your ability to control the future. I place it in your ability to see the next step and be humble enough to take it. You are not called to see the end of the road, because seeing the end would make you think you could walk by yourself, and you would forget that I am walking beside you. As once spoken in the night by those who believed, your word is a lamp to my feet. Psalm 119, 105. The light does not shine to the end of the road, it only illuminates the ground beneath the foot. That light does not flaunt itself, does not compete for your attention. It simply exists quietly, assuring you that if you keep walking, you will not slip into the abyss. The greatest confusion you face does not come from places you have not reached, but from your desire to reach them immediately. You fear that if you cannot see the whole picture, you will walk the wrong way. But I have never asked you to become the architect of your destiny. I only ask you to keep your heart soft, your eyes open, and to trust in small guidance. When you demand every answer, you will lose the most precious part of the journey, faith. Faith is not grasping everything. Faith is the courage to step onto ground that has not yet been lit. You do not need to light the entire road, because that does not belong to you. The light belongs to me, and I never shine so far that you forget how much you need me. If you could see everything at once, you would walk according to your own understanding and stray from the place I intend you to arrive. There are paths that look smooth from afar, but as you draw near, the ground becomes rugged with sharp stones, just like the thoughts that burden your heart when you first begin to be brave. You see an endpoint you believe is good, but you do not recognize that some stretches of that journey are not yet suitable for the youth of your soul. I hold you back not because I fear your movement, but because I want your feet strong enough to carry what lies ahead. I do not build a journey to test whether you deserve to finish it. I build a journey so you will know that I never leave you. When you learn to focus only on today's step, the remaining steps of your life will be sustained by me, just as the sower knows the sprout is not the sign of harvest. You must know that the next step is not the definition of your whole life. Do not place the burden of the future upon each step, because every step only needs faithfulness, not omniscience. When you doubt yourself because you do not know where you are going, you mistake lack of information for lack of presence. I do not remain silent because I reject you. I remain silent because I am leading you through terrain that your intellect is not yet mature enough to understand. You do not need to become the prophet of your own life to find direction. You only need enough stillness to recognize that my guidance is not a call from the far horizon, but a gentle prompting in each step you take. There will be moments when I bring you to a crossroads where you do not know whether to turn left or right, and your heart will want to stop forever out of fear. But if you stay in place waiting for absolute certainty, your soul will wither upon the very ground I designed for you to walk across. You ask me, what if I choose wrong? I answer, if you choose wrongly, I will correct you. I never set you on a path where a single wrong step shatters your entire life. I am not the architect of traps. I am the one who leads you through lands even you do not yet understand. You must know that I do not measure worth by linear perfection. I measure by trust. If the next step frightens you, take it trembling, rather than standing still to search for reasons. Trembling is not failure. It is evidence that your heart is still sensitive to truth. I do not judge souls who walk slowly. I heal souls who stop walking because they are afraid of depending on me. No one is born to see the entire road. Humanity does not possess the eyes of infinity, and I do not want you to carry that burden. I created you to live by breath, by step, by moment. By pause, seeing everything is my work, obeying step by step is yours. When you learn to place the weight of your life upon the small pockets of light, you will understand a secret most of the world never learns. True strength does not lie in gripping the future with your hands, but in entrusting the future to me and keeping your heart moving forward. You need only a lamp for the feet, not the sun that blankets the heavens. The lamp is for the traveler, not for the one who wishes to see the entire universe. There are times you walk through 1,000 voices pulling your soul in every direction, invitations, urgings, whispers of fear, echoes of old desires inside you, and you think they all come from me simply because they feel urgent. But my truth does not shout, does not shove, does not steal peace with noise. I speak in silence. That is why only when you stop and allow stillness to rest upon your soul will your feet learn to discern which voice is mine and which is only the echo of your own desires. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the door through which your soul enters the land of discernment. In silence, you no longer chase applause, nor are you haunted by the fear of falling behind, because silence strips away everything without roots and leaves only what truly belongs to me. You fear silence because you mistake it for abandonment. But silence was never meant to make you lonely. It only cuts away the cords that tie your mind to the world. As long as you still hear every call around you, you walk like someone wearing headphones who believes they can hear the wind, the promises of life, the thoughts born from desire. The voices whose origins you cannot trace will push their way in and disguise themselves as my voice, making you believe that you must act immediately, must hurry, must seize opportunities before they disappear. But nothing I give ever requires you to trample your own peace in order to keep it. My calling has a rhythm, like waves washing upon the shore, neither rushed nor delayed, unmoved by emotion. And the soul that knows how to seek silence will recognize that rhythm. Silence teaches you not to reach for things that reflect the impatience in your heart, but to open your hands only to what matches your depth. When you fear stillness, you are not afraid of the absence of voices. You are afraid of facing the true voice within yourself, the one you have buried beneath activity, plans, and relentless pursuit of goals to cover the exhaustion. But silence does not press down to weaken you. It simply helps you hear yourself again after being defined by the world for too long. When the noise fades, you begin to see what is genuine belief, what is obsession, what is the prompting of the soul, and what is merely a reaction born from old wounds. I do not speak loudly to overpower your voice. I speak gently to see if you trust me enough to stop walking. I speak slowly to see if you are patient enough to listen. I speak softly to see if you are willing to let go of the noisy calls you have grown accustomed to chasing. If you want to know which voice is mine, you must first be ready to leave the others behind. No matter how promising they seem, some ask me, why do you not speak more clearly? Why not carve the path with instructions, thunderous as a storm? I reply, because if I did, you would never learn how to trust me. Silence does not lead you astray. Silence frees your steps from dependence on emotion. When you only follow loud calls, you walk like a performer chasing the spotlight, moving only when the light is bright, standing firm only when cheered, persevering only when attention is upon you. But the path I give is not a stage. It is a trail in a forest where light slips through the leaves, where my voice sounds like the breath of the wind, unseen by the eye, but unmistakable to those who know how to listen. When you accept silence, you learn to walk like a nomad, reading the sky to know direction, feeling the ground to know rhythm, stepping one step at a time without hurry. Silence makes you lighter, because your soul no longer carries the burden of meaningless proof. Silence is also where I protect you from paths that are not yours. When you move amid noise, you mistake attraction for calling, An opportunity may appear only as a magnet drawing out your insecurity, not an invitation to walk into the purpose I made for you. People choose paths out of fear of missing out, but I guide you onto the path because I know it will nourish your soul. You may see a door wider than the one I open. You may hear strong advice from confident voices. You may hear yourself saying, "If I don't do it now, I will regret it later." But the silence I teach does not argue with fear. It only smiles and asks, "Do you feel peace?" Peace is my sign, not the spark of momentary excitement. When you become quiet, you hear peace rising, and that peace will always point toward me, never toward a race of urgency. Young souls think silence is pointless delay, while mature souls understand that silence is where I shape them. No great tree grows on the storm-beaten mountaintop. Every root grows deep in the soil, where light is scarce, where sound is soft, where time stretches long. Stillness is like that soil. It does not perform, it does not entice, but it protects the seed from being carried away by the wind, from being eaten by birds, from being burned by the sun when the roots are still fragile. If you always want a loud voice, you will seek certainty from the outside, and you will become someone dependent on validation. But if you learn to listen to my whisper, you will become someone who walks by essence. And when silence becomes familiar to you, you will be surprised that the steps of your soul discern clearly which voice is mine guiding you, and which is only the echo of fear and ambition. You will understand that I never push you with pressure, I only lead you with peace. You will learn that my voice is never rushed, never grasping, never burning your heart to make you leap into darkness. My voice always lets you stand firm, even before you see the full path. When you hear me in silence, you no longer walk out of fear of wasting time, but because you know I am waiting ahead. And a soul that walks out of love rather than fear, that is a soul that has recognized the true calling. Many people believe that peace is the applause at the end of the journey, the relief that comes once every trial has been conquered, once every question has been answered, once every fear has been proven wrong. But I tell you, this peace does not stand at the end of the road waiting for you. Peace walks beside you from the very first step. You have become so used to waiting until everything is stable before allowing yourself to breathe. Like a climber who only welcomes the mountain wind once they reach the summit, while the entire mountainside is an endless gift that would embrace them if only they stopped and felt it. Peace is not a condition of circumstance. Peace is a stream I place within the soul, flowing quietly like groundwater beneath the earth. You may not yet see the destination. You may not yet know the clear direction. But if you walk with me, peace will rest in every step, even while your eyes remain clouded before the future. The peace I give is not the calm the world longs for. The world calls it peace when everything is under control, when pressure has subsided, when danger has retreated. But my peace appears in the storm itself, like one who realizes that amidst crashing waves, there is still a steady heartbeat leading the way. Many times you ask me why I do not silence the winds that shake you, but you do not see that in those very winds. Peace is already training your heart. I do not shield you from storms by taking away the wind. I shield you from storms by placing peace within you, so you will not be swept away by its direction. When you understand that peace does not depend on the environment, you will stop demanding that life change so you can be calm, and you will begin learning to change your own heart so you can face life. You often think that only when you are strong enough can you feel peace. But peace is not a reward given to the victor. Peace is the armor that allows you to battle without breaking apart. Like a soldier who wears armor into the fight, you do not wait until victory to put it on. You wear it from the beginning. Many souls wait until they overcome hardship to believe they are loved. But I want them to know they are loved long before the trial arrives. Peace is the sign of that love. It does not come at the end like a congratulation. It walks beside you like a friend, holding your hand while you still tremble. When you are weak, peace does not disappear. When you are confused, peace does not depart. When you stumble, peace does not turn away. Because peace is not built on achievement, but on my presence. There are seasons when you walk through unfamiliar pathways, like entering a new forest where the sunlight slips through only a few leaves and you can see the way forward only in fragments. You want to run, to find an exit quickly, to reach some open field where you can take a long, deep breath. But my peace tells you to stop. Peace does not say, "Move faster." Peace says, "Breathe." You assume that pausing in the midst of hardship is weakness. Yet sometimes it is precisely in the moment you dare to stand still that you realize how near I truly am. Peace does not demand that you understand everything at once. It simply asks, "Do you remember I am walking beside you?" And when you answer with trust, you will feel your heart settle, like a lake smoothing out when the wind has ceased its disturbance. A young soul will always seek peace in outcomes, but a mature soul finds peace in the steps themselves. If you only feel calm when everything is going well, that peace is not mine, it is merely the fleeting comfort of emotion. True peace needs no validation. It is not attached to a project, does not rely on a plan, and is not distorted by applause. It exists like breathing. You do not need to be conscious of every inhale. Yet if you pause and take notice, you will see it holding you together every second. When you take my hand, the future ceases to be something that terrifies you. Because peace does not promise that everything will be easy. It promises that you will not collapse in the face of difficulty. There will be days when you wake up with your heart weighed down. Not because of something obvious, not because anyone has hurt you, but because a thin mist has settled over your mind and you can no longer find motivation. That is when peace does not look radiant. It looks like a hand gently resting on your shoulder, whispering quietly, "Just keep walking." Peace does not erase exhaustion. It teaches you how to walk through it. It does not remove the questions. It teaches you to live with questions that await their answers. It does not push you away from reality. It teaches you how to stand within it without letting your heart shatter. The world desires peace as a rigid suit of armor, but I give peace like a second skin, soft, flexible, yet nothing can pierce through it. And then when you look back, you will realize that peace did not arrive after the journey. Peace accompanied you in every step. It was present when you had not yet believed in yourself, when you were pushed to the edge and still did not give up. In the moments no one witnessed, yet you still chose what was right. It does not promise that you will never waver. It only promises that when you do, I am the foundation that never collapses. You do not need to reach the end of the road to know you are loved. You only need to walk one step at a time with the peace I give. To know that the very path you are on, even with its shadows and crossroads, has rested in my hand long before you set foot on it. You often imagine strength as a blazing fire bursting forth, an awakening filled with emotion that instantly redirects your soul, a bold decision that transforms your entire life. But the endurance I build in you is not lightning. It is a small ember that clings to a coal through days that seem uneventful. Emotion may cause you to rise, but only perseverance keeps you standing. A mature soul does not live by waves of excitement. It lives by steady steps, by every choice made when no one is watching, by the times you choose the righteous path without applause. Endurance does not grow from a single moment of explosive motivation, but from repeated steps taken in silence. Like a person who builds muscle, not through the first lift, but through hundreds of consistent lifts spread across many months. There are days when you feel nothing has changed, no achievement worth mentioning. Yet those are the days that lay the groundwork for endurance. Souls that wish to set the skies ablaze overnight will always be disappointed when they realize that dawn comes through thin strands of light, not fireworks. Strong emotions can push you quickly, but stability is what carries you far. The world loves to tell dramatic stories. I changed in an instant. I achieved everything with one reckless decision. I found faith through a single prayer. But the path I used to teach you is like water that slips through stone, quiet, unglamorous, yet gradually shaping. Forgiving once does not make you mature. Forgiving a second time, a 10th time, a 30th time, when no gratitude ever comes back to you, is what reshapes your heart. A beautiful prayer does not deepen your soul. Those prayers that falter, run dry, sometimes reduced to a sigh in the sleepless night. That is what teaches you to depend on me rather than on yourself. Endurance is not a mountain that suddenly rises after an earthquake. It is a mountain range formed over millions of years of silent upheaval. And so it is with your soul. I do not ask you to run like those who are fueled by excitement. I invite you to step like a sower in a field. When you sow, you do not see results immediately. You water, you tend, you wait, and there are days when nothing changes except a sliver of light reaching the cracked soil. That is not failure, that is process. Endurance comes from knowing how to repeat what is good, even when no one applauds, even when you do not feel motivated. Many souls long for miracles but cannot bear repetition. They want mountaintops, but not the countless small steps that lead up the slope. They dream of dazzling light, but forget that brilliance is composed of many small rays gathered together. I do not train you with fireworks. I train you with steady habits formed when the soul is still soft and easily bruised. True growth always begins with what seems unimpressive. There are times you blame yourself for lacking emotion. You no longer feel the burning passion of the beginning. No longer tremble with excitement as when you first knew me. No longer overflow with tearful prayers. But love does not live on exhilaration. Love lives on endurance. Just as a gardener does not pour buckets of water on a plant in a single day and abandon it for a month, you cannot live your faith on a burst of fervor as a substitute for the entire journey. I do not call you to burn bright. I call you to burn steadily. The flame that warms the house is not the largest fire that once erupted. It is the small flame that never goes out. Daily perseverance is the fuel that sustains the soul, while emotion is only the spark that lights it for a moment. When you understand this, you will no longer feel guilty for not burning intensely, but you will learn to be grateful for the slow, steady steps, for it is in them that I place true strength. Endurance does not bear the color of greatness. It wears the face of simplicity. A person who wakes up a little earlier to pray, even when their eyes are still heavy. A person who refuses the invitation to retaliate even when their heart is full of hurt. A person who keeps returning to me, even on days when they feel they cannot hear my voice. This is endurance. Endurance does not promise the feeling of victory every day. It only promises that you will not give up. A great storm may snap the branches of a tree, but the small rains, day after day, are what nourish the soil, and your soul must be watered in the same way. I do not want you to live like fireworks, brilliant for a moment and then extinguished. I want you to live like a river, continuous, steady, with no one remembering a specific drop of water, yet everyone knowing that its quiet strength has worn down stone. One day, you will look back and realize that endurance is not born in special moments, but in thousands of silent choices to continue. The seemingly insignificant steps, the silent falls no one witnessed, the moments when you endured tiredness instead of surrendering. These are the things that form the steadfast soul I am shaping. You will know you have matured not when you feel strong, but when you no longer need to feel strong in order to walk forward, when you can move without needing praise, when you can stand without needing someone to hold you, When you can remain silent and still believe that I am with you, this is endurance. You do not need to wait for a great emotion to begin. You only need to begin, and I will take care of the rest. You seek me in thunder, in miracles that become stories retold across generations, in grand moments the world calls breakthroughs. But I often approach you through movements so small that an impatient soul will mistake them for silence. I once revealed myself through a burning bush, through the Red Sea split in two. But those are not the only languages I speak. Many times I come to you like dew resting on the leaves at dawn, like a gentle breeze gliding through the trees, like a wordless whisper in your heart when every noise has grown tired of itself. You want a thunderous awakening, but I want your soul to become delicate enough to perceive the small. I do not hide you in darkness. I hide myself in details that only a heart trained to listen can find. Scripture has already spoken to you about this. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 1:9, 1:12. Elijah did not recognize me in the spectacular. He recognized me in the wind as thin as breath. And you will never learn maturity if you search for me only in displays of power. I reveal myself in the moments you call insignificant, the kind glance of a stranger, a simple question asked just when you are about to collapse, a thought of peace arriving when you believe worry has swallowed you whole. You see these as coincidences. I see them as answers. If I spoke to you only through shocking events, you would never learn to discern me while you stand within ordinary life. Many people ask me for signs, yet they expect only what is strong, impressive, and exceptional. But I do not feed the soul with theatrics. I feed it with rhythm. Every dawn is a time I call your name. Every quiet night is a time I shelter you. Every small step you take through exhaustion is a step I take beside you. You simply do not recognize me, because you were taught to find me in noise, not to seek me in gentleness. Just as a farmer never demands a tree to burst forth in one day, you cannot demand that I reveal myself in ways that satisfy your impatience. A seed resting in the soil is not dramatic. It is silent, dark, simple. Yet in that simplicity, I am performing the greatest work life slowly unfolding. I work in depths your eyes have not yet learned to see, not to perform tricks for your satisfaction, but to teach you that true value is born from the foundation, not the surface. You say, I want to see you. But if you accept only grand spectacles, you will miss me in every spoon of food you eat, every breath you take. Every moment, I permit you to awaken to another day. When you reach out your hand to another in kindness, I am there. When you choose forgiveness instead of resentment, I am there. When you quietly return to prayer, even when your heart is not burning, I am there. My presence requires no introduction. The world loves glitter. It wants the story of a life changed overnight. It wants miracles that silence every doubt. It wants thunderous applause to prove strength. But I have nothing to prove. Simplicity is my crown, an outer robe of humility, a gentle light that does not dazzle your eyes but warms your heart. If you recognize only the radiant, you will walk past me even when I am standing before you. Spectacle creates reassurance for a moment, but simplicity nourishes the soul for an entire journey. Just as the shepherd calls his flock not with thunder, but with a tender voice, I lead you through small movements and signals directed straight into your heart. Not every silence is absence. Sometimes silence is how I enlarge the space so that you may learn to hear me with your soul rather than your ears. Let me help you see the world once more. From my perspective, you inhale, that is a miracle. You exhale, that is also a miracle. Your heart contracts and expands tens of thousands of times a day. And every beat is evidence that I am still keeping you. You feel tired, yet you can still stand. That is me. You think your prayers are insignificant, yet you still return to speak to me. That is me. You do not feel excitement, yet you still love, still choose the good, still walk even before the sun rises. That is me. My truth is not preached through fireworks. It is etched into the small acts you believe no one sees. When you learn to recognize me in the things no one talks about, you will have matured enough to understand that closeness to me requires no stage. There are people who walk across your life without any halo, without grand words, without achievements that make you bow your head in admiration. They simply live, simply breathe, simply take their steps like the steady heartbeat no one ever praises. Yet they are the mirrors I place in your life to teach you what your impatient soul has forgotten. Growth does not come from explosions. It comes from the slow rhythm that preserves every small kindness. You encounter them at work, where you drink coffee, on a park bench, in the quiet greeting of the street cleaner at dawn. They do not try to impress you, yet their nameless perseverance shifts your perspective. You look at them and wonder why they are not hurried, why they are not afraid of being forgotten, why they can keep doing what is right even when no one gives thanks. And I tell you, because they have learned a lesson you are still searching for. Endurance is something that walks with time, not something that wins or loses in a single moment. You see, the successful, the people who move fast, speak loudly, produce results that make crowds cheer. And you think that I teach you through them. I can. But I do not teach you only through them. I also teach you through the people you walk past and forget. Because they carry a rhythm, your young feet cannot yet grasp the slow rhythm. A small shopkeeper quietly opens their door each morning, wipes every corner of the counter, arranges each object again, not because they expect something spectacular to happen that day, but because they understand that carefulness is a form of prayer. A person doing monotonous labor, whom everyone thinks invisible, does not complain, does not parade their hardship. They simply live each day calmly, like a young tree learning to stand upright in the wind. You think I reveal myself in loud proclamations, yet you do not know that I stand behind the faces no one notices, teaching you how to walk with time gently. My wisdom often comes to you through such ordinary rhythms of life. A person patiently waiting at a red light instead of rushing through it is not weak. They have understood that the safety of everyone sharing the road matters more than their own urgency. An elderly woman taking her morning walk with short but steady steps is not trying to train her body like the youth. She knows that serenity must be nurtured by habit, not by grand achievements. I teach you through them because they understand a truth you still resist. Life needs rhythm, not storms. You do not learn that truth from people who speak about tranquility, but from those who quietly live within it. When you look down on them, you are not belittling them, you are belittling the very maturity I am giving you. You say, they are just ordinary people. But the word ordinary is precisely what your soul lacks. You want to run, to break free, to reach heaven in leaps, while I am teaching you that heaven draws near to earth through every breath, every small action, every act of patience given without expecting reward. The world glorifies those who shine brightly, but I tell you to look toward those who shine quietly like an oil lamp in a small house, unable to illuminate the whole city, yet bright enough that no one stumbles. Those people may not speak much about me, but they reflect me in the way they live. You once asked me, why do you not place great figures beside me to guide my path? And I sent you people who are not remarkable, people who do small tasks, people who silently endure to sustain what is good. You overlooked them because you sought excitement. But every time I wanted to teach you, I sent you an unassuming face, I placed you next to the coworker who is not talented but persistent, the classmate who is not exceptional but always upright, the neighbor who is not wealthy but unfailingly kind. They do not move quickly, but they do not collapse. They do not climb high, but they do not retreat. They do not draw attention. Yet they are the ones who keep rhythm for the souls who rush ahead without realizing they have already lost their way. Learn this lesson. I do not ask you to imitate the greatest. I ask you to learn from the most enduring. A slow pace is not the abandonment of ambition. It is surrender to the process. It teaches you that the journey of a soul is not measured by speed, but by depth. It teaches you that maturity arrives like the night wind. No one sees its beginning. No one hears its approach. Yet by morning, the leaves have already changed color. When you learn to accept that pace of life, you will see that I am not only in the highest places where the light is brilliant, but also in the lowest places where the light is gentle. I am in the grand picture, but I am also present delicately in the smallest details, and you can only see me if you stop running long enough to learn from those who appear to have nothing to teach. There are times when you wonder why your endurance does not come through blazing events, but through small moments that seem insignificant. You expect a strong wind to train your legs, but I send you a gentle slope you must walk every day. You expect a great lesson that shakes your heart, but I place in your hands repetitive, small tasks that seem meaningless. You expect a miracle to create a turning point, but I plant in your life seeds so small they seem invisible, so you may realize that resilience is not a reaction, but a habit. A musician does not play to applause on the first day. They begin by tuning the guitar little by little, turning the peg, listening, tightening the string a bit, then loosening it, patiently searching for the right note. The string does not snap because it is weak. It snaps when pulled too hard. Without patience for time, I tune your soul in the same way, adjusting tiny tensions, making subtle corrections so you will not split apart in a storm you cannot foresee. Endurance makes no loud sound. It does not come when you are excited, but when you simply want everything to be over. You do not train resilience when all things are pleasant. You train resilience when each small detail of life tests your patience. Like the fisherman who stands beside the riverbank, eyes on the quiet water, hand holding the line in an uncertain weight. He does not yank the rod at the first sign of movement. He loosens it gently, feels it, adjusts it, and endures every minute of silence. You might think strength lies in the moment he lifts the large fish from the water, but I tell you the strength was formed in every silent minute when he refused to give up. The stillness before the result appears is the place where the spiritual muscles are trained. There are days when you ask me to change your circumstances, but instead I change your impulses. You want me to open wide doors, but I tell you to practice walking through narrow gaps. You want to leap across the river, but I teach you to place stones one by one and step across. Your soul loves big outcomes, but I love small motions, because those motions become your foundation when life turns chaotic. You do not realize that I am forging endurance in you when I place you in situations that ask you to wait a little longer. Be patient a little more. Overlook one harsh word one more time. You think you are being delayed, but in truth I am making you stronger. Like the craftsman who pulls the string just enough, not enough to break it, but never enough to let it hang slack. Endurance is not the ability to withstand a single great blow. It is the ability not to break under 1,000 small collisions. The world teaches you to despise those moments, but I use those very moments to train your soul. You ask why I send you difficult people instead of great enemies, because the cruelty of an enemy forces you to fight. But patience in the face of small friction is what makes you grow. You ask why I let you lack just a little instead of giving you abundance or throwing you into scarcity, because abundance makes you lazy. Crisis makes you afraid. but slight insufficiency makes you creative and humble. I continually teach you that resilience is not born from moments of brilliance, but from habits rooted in the rhythms of life you tend to disregard. If you look back on your life, you will see that it was not the storms that formed you, but the quiet days that were not simple. You waited in line despite exhaustion. You held on to hope while your heart was full of doubt. You endured misunderstandings that only you heard. You tried to help others even when no one thanked you. All of these are like the musician tuning each string before beginning the symphony. No one applauds that preparation, but without it the music becomes chaos. Endurance is just like that. It is not praised. It is not recognized. Yet it is what keeps your soul from snapping when the song of life finally begins. I want you to understand that I do not refine you once and then stop. I refine you the way water smooths a stone wave after gentle wave. Night after long night. Moment after seemingly unchanging moment. I do not strike you with a hammer to force you into shape. I let time pass over you so that you may become softer, deeper, and more steadfast. Every moment you consider meaningless is a tool I use to build you. When you are waiting, I am teaching you. When you are discouraged, I am reinforcing you. When you feel you have no strength, I am adding strength to you through that very weakness. I do not lift you up to make you run before you know how to stand. I tune your soul like an artist tuning strings, so that when the appointed time comes, every note you play will ring true. There are moments when you look toward the future with a bright longing like dawn, and then when you reach out to receive it, reality folds shut before your eyes like a door that is not locked yet refuses to open. You feel loss and emptiness, and ask why the things you prepared for, prayed for, and hoped for did not happen the way you believed they would. You treat disappointment as an ending, as a heavy period at the end of the story you worked so hard to build. But I tell you that disappointment is not a full stop. It is the pause between two notes, the resting beat that lets you change your breathing and look back at all the places where your soul has placed its expectations in the wrong things. You have not failed because what you wanted did not come. You are simply learning that expectations placed on circumstances will always shake. But expectations placed on me will never disappear. Disappointment comes to draw your eyes away from the picture you painted for yourself and lift your gaze to the tapestry I am weaving, where every color is not only for joy but also for growth. You often think that expectations are what make you feel alive. But not every expectation is light. Some expectations are like dry straw fire. They flare up quickly and then die out, leaving only the scent of ashes and a hollow ache inside you. You think sorrow shows up to destroy you, when it is actually there to show you where you have placed your heart on things that cannot hold you for long. Disappointment is not a sentence of judgment. It is a gentle mirror reflecting the true face of your faith. When you ache because a door has closed, it does not mean I have withdrawn my hand from you. It only reveals that you were leaning on a door instead of leaning on me. I let you feel the emptiness when expectations shatter so that you may see that what you were resting on was not solid rock. You do not recognize the true backbone of your spiritual life until something presses down on it. You do not know where your legs are weak until they tremble before the next step. And you will never know where your expectations are misplaced until they hurt you. I do not come merely to remind you to hope. I come to teach you where to place your hope. What you call loss is often the starting point of true positioning. When pain causes you to close your heart, I come to open it again. Not by instant miracles, but by the truth you have read, yet never truly lived. All things work together for good for those who love God. Romans 8:2-8. You have read that verse as comfort, but I want you to live it as foundation. All things does not mean only success, joy, and favorable outcomes. All things includes disappointment, delays, silence, misunderstandings, and unexpected turns you never thought you would have to take. You only see the breaking at the surface. I see those broken pieces becoming bricks for a new structure. Disappointment does not destroy your soul. It destroys the false anchors so that you may stand with what is truly worth keeping. There will be times when you blame life for its harshness, blame others for their indifference, and blame yourself for your weakness. Yet rarely do you ask, what was I hoping to find here? Disappointment reminds you that expectations placed on people will change with the weather of their hearts. Expectations placed on circumstances will shift with the seasons of life. And expectations placed on yourself will collapse when your strength is worn out. But expectations placed on me are a bridge that will not break, because I do not break. You were not born to demand that the world bend to your will. You were created to learn to walk with mine. When your expectations depend on how others respond, you will sway with every glance. When your expectations depend on outcomes, you will crumble every time a calculation strays from your prediction. But when your expectations rest on me, you will stand firm even when every calculation falls apart, because your foundation is not in numbers but in the one who does not change. I know how you feel when everything you have prepared seems useless. I know the heaviness in your heart when the promises inside you have no visible form outside. I know the pain of having to smile while quietly asking within, "Why not now, but my child?" That is not the conclusion. It is the opening line of the lesson I am teaching you. Hope is refined not by victory, but by disappointment. When you keep walking with intention even though the light has not yet appeared, you are allowing me to redefine hope for you. When you lay down what you cannot control, you are making room for what I have prepared. When you no longer demand that everything unfold according to your plan, your soul begins to hear my rhythm, and peace is no longer a prize at the end but a companion along the way. Disappointment does not lower your true value. It only brings low everything in you that cannot stand. Hope does not die when you hurt. Hope simply becomes more honest. There are things in your life that make you feel as though you are being pushed backward, as if every effort is meaningless and each step you take is pulled back by an invisible force. You imagine that acceptance means dropping your weapons, giving up, letting everything happen without any resistance. But acceptance in me is not the breaking of the soul. It is the bowing of the heart before a hand that is patiently leading you through darkness your eyes cannot yet perceive. You fight against circumstances because you believe you can control everything. But you do not realize that what you cling to is sometimes what I have already appointed to leave you. Acceptance does not turn you into a loser. It simply reveals that you have grown enough to see that you are not the center of all things. Just as a river understands it does not need to argue with the rocks at its banks, but only needs to flow along the path already carved out. When you learn to flow with my will, you will no longer fear the bends that were never part of your plans. Acceptance is the whisper of the soul I do not understand, but I will still move. It is the kind of prayer that needs no ornament, because I am not waiting for your explanations. I am waiting for your trust. You think understanding leads to peace, but peace comes before understanding. You want a complete map, yet I place only the next step in your hand. You want to see the ending from the beginning, while I only give you a small piece, just enough for you to walk a short distance. I do not hide things from you to confuse you. I hide them so that you may know that the light I give is a light for each step, not a floodlight exposing the entire plan. Acceptance is like the craftsman who steps into the workshop and sees clay lying shapeless on the spinning wheel, not knowing what is ahead, while my hands already know the final form. Many times you cry out when I press, push down, and stretch you, but it is through those careful movements that I am shaping your soul into a form you cannot yet imagine. You have mistaken acceptance for the silence of the defeated. But acceptance in me is the turning of someone who has stopped trying to explain the world through their own perspective. Resistance stretches your heart like a string tightened too much on an instrument at some point. It will snap. Acceptance loosens that string so it can resonate in the right key when my hand touches it. Resistance keeps your soul standing at a crossroads, unable to move forward. Acceptance leads you to the place where you will understand the purpose behind the turns that once seemed pointless. When you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin to ask, "What do you want me to learn through this?" you have stepped out of the territory of bitterness into the realm of wisdom. That is the difference between someone who carries their wound as a final full stop and someone who receives their wound as an invitation to find themselves in me. Acceptance does not make you weaker. It is the exhaustion of fighting what cannot be changed that wears you down. There are moments when I lead you into a situation not so you can prove your strength, but so you can discover that, in the place of weakness, you may lean on me without shame. You have believed that I want you to fight without ceasing. But there are battles where the most beautiful victory is learning how to let go. Letting go is not surrendering in despair. It is trusting that there are greater hands holding what you are afraid to lose. You imagine that holding on to everything is responsibility. But some things are truly kept only when you allow them to leave your hands. I have seen you choke back tears, trying to protect what has gone beyond your capacity. I have seen your heart tighten because you cannot control the flow of time. I do not blame you for the times you have clung so hard. I simply wait until you are tired enough for me to say, "I am here." Lay it down. There are areas of life that only open when you stop demanding they unfold according to your schedule. I let some of your prayers remain unanswered, not to test how much you can endure, but to reshape your expectations in the right direction. When you learn to accept, silence no longer stands as your enemy, it becomes your teacher. When you accept, what is unclear is no longer a threat, it becomes fertile ground for faith to take root. I do not let you stumble to discourage you. I cause you to pause so you can see that your feet have been resting more heavily on outcomes than on the one who guides you. Acceptance does not turn you into someone passive. It simply makes you soft enough not to break yourself when I adjust your path. If you look more deeply into the seasons you called failure, you will see they were always connected to beginnings you did not recognize at the time. Understanding arrives at the end like a delayed dawn, and you will realize it was never absent. You simply lacked the patience to wait for the light to reach you. Acceptance is the door that leads you into peace, and peace is the ground on which your feet can stand firm when the wind changes direction. When you trust me in what you do not understand, you no longer need an explanation in order to move forward. You do not need a map to choose your next step. You do not need a detailed plan in order to remain standing. You only need to know that I am there and that I will not abandon you. It is in the blind stretch of the journey that you learn the simplest yet deepest lesson. Faith is not knowing what is happening. Faith is knowing that I am present in everything that is happening. There are days when you say you believe, yet your heart trembles with every step, as if faith must instantly produce comfort. You think believing is a surge of emotion, an inspired moment that makes you want to run toward the future. But faith is not born in excitement. Faith begins in the days when nothing seems to happen, in the long hours without a single sign, in the quiet steps no one sees. Faith is when you still place your foot on the ground even though the light has not yet appeared. Faith is when you say yes, even while the logic in your mind is shouting impossible. Faith is a choice, not a momentary emotional reaction. Faith does not require a feeling. Faith requires steadfastness, like a seed buried in the soil, not knowing when the sun will touch it, yet continuing to open its inner shell, not because it feels ready, but because the program of life has already been written within it. I know your weariness when you walk without seeing the road. I see the nights when your soul wants to stop because the distance between promise and reality is painful. In those moments, you look to your feelings as the measure of your faith, and when your feelings sink, you assume your faith has disappeared. But my child, faith does not follow the rhythm of emotion. Emotion is only the wave upon the surface, while faith is the undercurrent beneath. When you keep walking, though, your heart has not yet been comforted. That is faith. When you still choose what is good while you are hurting, that is faith. When you choose to love without knowing whether that love will be returned, that is faith. When you do not see the complete picture, but still place another piece in, that is faith. Faith is the firm assurance of what you have not yet seen, Hebrews 1:1-1. It is not your feelings that are assured, it is your soul that is assured. Even while your steps still tremble, you have grown accustomed to measuring everything by evidence, what the eye sees. The hand touches, the ear hears. You wait for clear signals. You long for human affirmation. You look for signs to soothe yourself. But faith does not cling to evidence, it clings to me. Faith is like a sail opened upon the sea at night, unable to see the shore, yet filled by the wind, because it knows the wind will lead the way. Faith is not blind. Faith simply places its weight on the one you follow. If faith exists only when there is evidence, then it is no longer faith, it is observation. Faith is when you set your foot down while the ground ahead is still veiled in mist. Faith is when you follow a call you cannot prove by reason. Faith is when you continue the conversation with me, even when you do not receive an answer in the language you expected. Many say they lack faith because they do not feel anything intense. I tell you that strong feelings are only the brief sparks of zeal. True faith is the flame that burns steadily through days that seem to have no wind at all. A mature soul does not go searching for storms to prove its strength, but knows how to remain faithful in calm weather. Faith is when you wake in the early morning. Walk without rushing. Keep your breathing steady, and continue the journey even though the night brought no revelation. Faith is when you put your hand to small tasks while your heart longs for a great miracle. It is not because you have already seen the outcome, but because you know the outcome does not determine the value of your steps. It is your steps that determine the direction of your life. It is not because you see me clearing the way, but because you know I am walking ahead of you. There are times when I allow you to feel nothing, so you may learn that feeling is not your compass. Feelings come and go like tides, but faith is like a rocky shore that endures the pounding waves and yet remains. When you lean on emotion, you will sway each time the waves rise high. When you lean on me, you will stand even when the sea is raging. Silence does not kill faith. Silence is the environment where faith is given the chance to grow. Confusion does not destroy you. Confusion is the soil where you discover more of me than of yourself. You do not need to feel strong in order to move. You simply need to put your foot down. You do not need to understand everything in order to go forward. You only need to choose not to turn back. One step taken when you see nothing is worth more than 100 taken when everything is clear. If you wait until encouragement stirs your emotions before you move, you will miss hundreds of stretches of road I have already prepared. There will be times when you must move forward while your heart still doubts, when your eyes are still wet with tears, when your hands are still trembling. I do not demand that you walk in the confidence of yourself. I only long for you to walk in attachment to me. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is refusing to let fear speak in my place. Faith is not seeing the path. Faith is stepping into the unknown with the certainty that my hand is waiting. People will tell you about spectacular achievements, but I will ask you about each small step. That is where the quiet miracle flows, not in the loud explosion of accomplishments, but in the steady sound of faithful footsteps on the ground. You often imagine love as something that comes when you are at your best, your strongest, your brightest, that only when you accomplish something or maintain the image you believe is worthy will I remain by your side. But my enduring love does not wait for you to become perfect. It comes right into the part of you that trembles, into the turns where your soul believes it has ruined everything. You know the story of a man who once boldly declared that he would stand with me to the very end. Yet only a few hours later, He trembled before the small questions of strangers. Peter did not deny me because he hated me. He denied me because he had not yet understood how enduring love works. He assumed that loyalty must always be accompanied by strength. And when his strength fell apart, he thought, my love had fallen apart with it. But my child, my love does not choose the souls that never fall. My love chooses the souls that can collapse and still rise again when I call them by name. Peter did not fall in that dark night because he was uniquely weak. He fell because he believed love depended on his own resolve. When he heard the rooster crow, his heart broke, not mainly from the fear of losing me, but from the belief that I had lost him. He did not run toward me, he ran away, carrying the loneliness of someone who thinks they have destroyed every purpose. Yet my enduring love did not follow him with accusations, did not chase him down with condemnation. It waited, like a small fire that refuses to go out through the night. It stood on the shore of Galilee, not asking, why did you fail? But asking, do you love me? I did not bring up the denial. I did not dig through every failure. I reached for the deepest place in his heart, not to judge, but to awaken the cord that had bound him to me long before fear snapped it. And you, many times, do the same, not because you are deliberately betraying me, but because you believe that stumbling disqualifies you from being loved. You strive to restore a beautiful image of yourself. You try to speak strong words. You hurry to prove that you are worthy to return. But my enduring love does not enter your life through the gate of worthiness. It walks in through the gate of honesty. When you admit that you are afraid, I do not withdraw, I draw nearer. When you collapse in disappointment, I do not leave. I lay my hand on your shoulder and wait for you to look back. Enduring love does not need proof, does not need decoration, does not need applause. It exists like warmth in your chest, even when you do not name it. It is the underground stream beneath the earth, feeding the roots in winter, no matter how dry the surface appears. There are days when you resemble Peter, zealous while the sun is still high, yet trembling when darkness descends. You ask yourself whether I am disappointed with you, whether you have ruined what I placed inside you. But remember this: before Peter fell, I had already seen him stand. Before he denied me, I had already called him a rock. I do not build my promises on your worst moment. I build them on the nature I planted in you when I formed you. If you look at yourself only through the lens of your failures, you will forget that I look at you through the potential I breathed into you. I never abandon the work I have begun. I continue to complete it along lines you do not yet understand. My enduring love is not gentle because it is weak. It is gentle because it is so strong. It does not need to show off. It does not need to shout to force you back. It quietly places itself where you cannot avoid it, in your loneliness, in your questions. In those times you say, I am not worthy. You think I love you when you are victorious, but I love you right in your trembling first step. You think I love you when you are strong, but I love you when all you can do is breathe. I love you when you walk on the water, and I also love you when you begin to sink because you paid too much attention to the wind. Enduring love does not come to reward, it comes to rescue. It does not arrive when you have proved yourself. It arrives when all you have left is an empty space, ready to receive. Peter met me again, not in the synagogue, not before a crowd, but by a charcoal fire where I was grilling fish and bread, simple, warm, quiet. I did not set up a pulpit, I set a meal. Enduring love does not demand drama. It seeks you in the small details, in the moments everyone else considers ordinary. Yet there you hear my calling more clearly than any sermon. It is not when you stand firm before multitudes, but when you are hauling in nets in your tiredness, and I say, cast it on the right side. That is the moment of enduring love. It does not erase the past, but leads you forward without forcing you to keep staring at your stumbling. And my child, if you ask whether that love is enough for you, remember this. I did not question Peter about how his past had been. I only asked about his present. Do you love me? My enduring love does not rest on perfection. It rests on the direction of the heart. However many times you lose your way, I continue in the same rhythm. I call you forward, not backward. I do not desire you to live your whole life as someone forever apologizing. I want you to rise as someone who is called, for you are not defined by your mistakes, but by the word I spoke over you from the very beginning. You often think forgiveness is simply an act of erasing mistakes, like wiping a chalkboard clean so the surface becomes white again. But my forgiveness is not a wipe on the surface. It is a deep intervention into the very roots of where you broke, where you bound yourself with judgments I never uttered. Forgiveness is not just unlocking a door, it is removing the invisible chains you have wrapped around your own wrists because you believed you deserved to live only in places without light. I hear every word you say about yourself on nights when you think, I no longer listen. Words of accusation, rejection, and self-denial that keep you away from good things. Yet my forgiveness does not come to argue with you. It comes to break each rope you cling to, thinking that through it you can somehow repay your guilt, when the only thing needed for freedom is for you to let me touch it. My forgiveness does not turn the past into nothing. It places the past in its proper place, something that has happened, not a sentence that lasts forever. You see your stumbles as proof that your soul is unworthy to move forward, while I see those very stumbles as the place where you learn grace, not grace as an idea, but as the very air you breathe. You try to fix yourself so you can return to me, but I never left you, so you do not need to return. You evaluate yourself by your scars, while I place my hand upon those very scars and turn them into places where light can pass through. My forgiveness does not deny what has been. It deprives what has been of its power to define you. If I only erased, you would still live in fear of repeating your failure. But when I heal, you know that no matter how many times you stumble, my nature toward you does not change. There are people who believe that forgiveness is only a step backward, a moment where everything returns to zero. But I do not take you back to the starting line. I bring you back to where you truly belong. My forgiveness is like opening the door of a prison where you have lived so long that you have started to call it home. That room is dark and familiar. You know every corner of the wall, every sound of the rusty lock, and you fear the light because you have lived in the shadows for too long. But when I open the door, I do not force you to run out. I extend my hand and wait for you to take it. You are not forced to leave the darkness. You are invited to step into peace. Forgiveness is not the act of closing your eyes to what has happened. Forgiveness is what opens your eyes to see that you have always had value, not because you kept yourself flawless, but because I have never withdrawn my love from you, not even for a single breath. My child, you once thought that to be forgiven, you had to punish yourself, had to live in silence, had to despise your own soul as a reasonable penalty. You believed that only when you made yourself small enough would I feel compassion for you. But I do not love souls that despise themselves. I lift up those who know how to see their own smallness and still walk toward me. My forgiveness does not merely cancel old debts. It restores to you the right to love yourself through the eyes with which I see you. It takes from your hand the whip you have used to strike yourself, and places back on your shoulders the garment you once tore apart. Forgiveness does not tell you to forget. Forgiveness transforms memory so that it no longer wounds you. Forgiveness does not make you clean because you have tried hard enough. Forgiveness makes you free because I have chosen you. There are seasons when you turn your back on your own self because you fear the eyes of others. Fear the judgments stored in their memories. Fear that the stains of your past will become a resume that can never be erased. But I do not drag you into a courtroom for trial. I lead you to the only place where you are safe enough to begin again in my presence. I do not ask you, why did you do that? I ask you, are you ready to walk with me now I do not require a detailed report of every mistake. I ask for a heart that knows it is loved even when it has not yet learned how to live in a way that feels worthy of that love. My forgiveness does not simply open a new path, it sets you upon that path with feet that no longer tremble in shame. When I forgive you, I do not push you ahead and stay behind, I go with you. I do not hand you a map and remain standing in the distance. I place my hand in yours and walk beside you through each stretch of road. For forgiveness is not merely an act in the past, it is a companionship in the present. It is the miracle that allows the soul to live without constant defense, without having to prove itself, without bowing before old ghosts of accusation. My forgiveness does not make you smaller, it enables you to stand upright. My forgiveness does not leave you blushing with your face to the ground, it lifts your head so you can see the light that has always belonged to you. There are wounds within you that do not lie on the surface of your skin, but in the deep place where memory and expectation meet. They do not bleed, yet they still hurt. No one can see them. Yet they shape the way you walk, the way you look at others, the way you hide the most vulnerable parts of yourself. You often wish that I would simply wipe away the pain as you would wipe dust from glass, restoring clarity so that you can move on. But I do not come merely to patch up broken fragments. I come to recreate the soul, so that you do not simply survive but love in a new form, a form no longer twisted by suspicion or self-defense. Restoration is not a return to how you were before you were hurt. Restoration is becoming what you have never been before, a soul that can look at its own wounds without trembling. Because you know that precisely there, I have laid the foundations of compassion. When I begin to restore you, I do not start by erasing the people who hurt you, nor by changing your circumstances first. I go into the deep layers where you hid your memories, those corners where you told yourself, "I'm fine now," just to keep going. I place my hand there, not to make you suffer more, but to cut away the old roots clinging to bitterness. I know you no longer trust love easily. You see others through cautious lenses, measure every step of closeness, predict every possible betrayal. I do not blame you for learning to protect yourself, but I have come to teach you a different kind of protection, the protection of a heart that has been healed, not a heart that has shrunk back just to survive. For love cannot flow out of a soul that only knows how to defend itself. Love can only flow from someone who has met me in the deepest places of their pain, like a craftsman restoring an old instrument. I do not simply replace the rusty strings or polish the scratched wood. I take it apart piece by piece, opening the inside where the sound has been choked by the shocks of life. I carefully examine the wooden frame, touch the places that have weakened, reinforce parts that seemed harmless to your eye. You stand beside me, thinking that what I have already done is enough. But I know that the sound will only grow warm and full when I adjust even the things your eyes cannot see. So it is with your soul. It is not healed by surface treatment, but by work done in the places no one enters except me. So that one day, when you love someone who trembles as you once trembled, you will not love them with condescension, but with the gentleness of one who knows how deep healing can go. There are people I bring into your life, not so that you can avoid pain, but so that you can learn to share the peace you have received. I do not place you among flawless souls. I place you among bleeding ones so that you can understand that enduring love does not come from never being wounded, but from being rebuilt. When you see the weariness in their eyes, I want you to recognize yourself in them, like a reflection of the time when you did not yet know how to call my name. I do not invite you to become the strong one. I invite you to become the one who was once weak, for only those who have been weak know how to lift others up instead of judging them, not so that you may save them by your own strength, but so that you may share the tenderness I have poured into you. Little by little, I do not restore you so that you will forever turn your back on the past, as if denying what happened could make you new. I restore you so that you can carry your past, the way someone carries a scar that has healed it, no longer hurts. But it reminds you that the body once knew how to mend, and that I was present in every beat of that process. A scar is not ugly, it is where the light reflects. If I only healed without rebuilding, your pain would merely fall asleep, waiting for another chance to awaken. But when I rebuild, I turn the place that once broke into the strongest point of support, like a branch once lashed by storms that becomes sturdier than those never shaken. And you will see something strange and beautiful when you are restored. You no longer love in order to be loved back, no longer give in order to be comforted, no longer open your heart out of fear of being abandoned. You love because I loved you first. You forgive because you were forgiven first. You lift others up because you were lifted when you thought you had fallen into the deepest pit. My restoration turns compassion into a natural reflex, not a survival strategy. It teaches you to look at others through the eyes with which I look at you, not through their failures, but through what could bloom in them if one day they allow me to touch their hearts. And there, in that place, you become my outstretched arm on the earth, not as a herald of power, but as a bearer of gentleness. For the gentle ones are those I have held close through seasons of breaking. No turn in your life is ever wasted, and no step is ever lost when you allow me to walk alongside you. Spiritual footsteps do not mature in a single morning, nor ripen after an unexpected miracle. They grow with the quiet rhythm of each day. In the moments when you rise, though exhausted, in the moments when you slow down to hear the wind, in the moments when you stop not because you are weak, but because you honor the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You have walked through flat lands and uneven paths. You have known the feeling of being carried and the feeling of having to balance yourself. Through all those experiences, I have never demanded that you be strong immediately. I have only asked that you do not give up on yourself. A mature pair of feet needs prove nothing. It is silent, yet steady. It does not compete with the steps of others, nor compare its rhythm with the souls running ahead. It understands that speed does not determine the destination, but endurance and direction are what keep it standing. There are days when you think you have not moved forward, but your heart has learned to be gentler, and your mind has learned to discern what is my voice and what is the echo of fear. That maturity does not arrive with thunder. It arrives in changes so small that you only recognize them when you look back over a long stretch of road. Mature feet no longer seek dazzling light to guide the way, because they have learned that the light of peace within is enough. They do not demand praise or affirmation from the outside, because they have grown accustomed to my quiet presence. You once believed maturity meant never falling again, never trembling again. But true maturity is knowing that every fall does not tear apart your worth, and every trembling does not drive me away. You learn to stand not because you fear failure, but because you know you no longer walk alone. A soul that has matured does not try to impress. It simply lives honestly with the peace that comes from belonging to me. There are steps you take that no one sees. No one celebrates. No one remembers. Those are the steps that form you. It is in those small moments when you remain patient in silence, when you do not rush to prove yourself, when you choose forgiveness instead of retaliation, when you accept that not every answer will come in the moment you desire that your feet have grown stronger. I rejoice when you walk far, but I rejoice even more when you walk deep. For steps that move inward are the ones that lay the foundation for every outward journey. You do not need to tell the world that you have changed. The gentleness in your eyes, the calm with which you no longer fight to be heard, the composure with which you face the unknown, all of these will speak on your behalf. Those who once saw your anxiety will see a tranquility they cannot explain. Not because you have found answers to everything, but because you have trusted in one simple truth: I am still with you. In every breath, every silence, every small decision, That is the foundation of mature feet. They know they do not need to see the entire path in order to walk steadily. And when you pause, not because you have lost direction, but because you are listening to me, you will understand what you never knew. You no longer need to cling to every support. The maturity of spiritual footsteps is not found in control, but in trust. Not trust that everything will be smooth, but trust that I am close enough for you to walk one step at a time. The world will have its sprints, its leaps, its shouts of triumph, but you will have gentle steps, steps that know how to wait, steps that know how to love, and steps that know how to return when needed. This is neither the end of the journey nor a new beginning. It is simply the natural transformation of a soul that has passed through the night season and no longer fears the shadows on the ground. Mature feet are not perfect feet. They still know pain, fatigue, and hesitation before the unknown. But they no longer tremble before the dark, because they know that wherever you step, I step with you. You do not need thunder to call your name, nor fierce visions to know you are on the right path. You only need to keep stillness and peace within your chest. There, you will hear what I have whispered since the very first days I have never left you. And in that sentence, your feet find their place in the universe not as a conqueror, not as one who has overcome all things, but as someone who knows they are loved enough to keep moving forward. There is no bell to announce that you have matured. There is no milestone that shows you have reached a state without struggle. There is only the quiet, gentle serenity when you look back on the road behind you and realize, today I walk differently. Not because I am stronger, but because I believe more. And that is all I ever hoped for. You do not need to become a hero. You only need to become yourself, the version shaped by me, gently molded by me, supported by me through every slip and every rising. That is the culmination of the journey, mature feet. Not loud, not proud, simply quiet and steadfast, knowing that every step carries my breath. Now pray as follows, Lord. When I walk into rugged paths that my heart wants to avoid, keep me from the desire to look for shortcuts. Help me learn to walk each step with calmness, not to prove anything to the world, but so that I may know you are building strength within me. Every time I stumble, please lift me, not so that I may run faster, but so that I may recognize that my feet are learning to stand. Teach me patience with myself, trust in the long process, and not to burden my soul with the haste of the world. Lord, when trials arrive like a strong wind, help me not to see them as enemies. Teach me to view shaking events as mirrors, revealing the parts of me that are not yet mature, so I will not flee in bitterness, but receive what you are teaching. When my heart questions why everything has become difficult, please do not let me forget that trials are the place where you lead me into growth, not a sentence of judgment. Lord, when I fall from my first unsteady steps, grant me the humility to rise without shame. Remind me that having to learn again is not failure, but an invitation to go deeper. Let me feel your quiet presence, like a hand gently placed behind a child, striving to keep balance. Do not let me misinterpret silence as abandonment, for my heart easily loses faith when it trembles. Lord, when the emotions within me cool and the excitement of the early days fades, keep me in steady light. Teach me that true closeness does not come from powerful feelings, but from the steady breath of a soul that knows you are with it. Let me learn to walk like one who strolls at dawn, sensing the rhythm of life through each breath, each step, each gentle ray of light without needing explanation. Lord, when I tremble before the high steps of life, remind me that you have placed a handrail beside me. Help me not to wish that you would carry me simply because I am afraid, but to learn how to use the supports you have already prepared. Grant me enough peace to lay my hand upon that help. Slowly, carefully, knowing that no one becomes mature by avoiding every rung of the staircase. Lord, when I see myself being molded, guard my heart from believing it is abandonment. Teach me to cherish the seasons in which you refine me, because they are the foundations for the future I cannot yet see. When I feel distorted, remind me that clay becomes beautiful only when it accepts the hands of the potter. Give me the faith to believe that you will never break what you are shaping into a masterpiece. Lord, when I walk into the dark portion of the journey with no light ahead of me, remind me that you are still beside me. Do not let me call darkness an enemy when it is merely the space in which my soul learns to recognize companionship. Soften the whispers of fear inside me so that I may find you not by sight, but by a heart that knows how to trust. Lord, when the world calls me toward easy paths, do not let me walk into them if they weaken my soul. Keep me on the narrow, difficult ways you have chosen so that my feet learn endurance. When others run faster, teach me to walk slowly. When I am lost among the standards of the world, teach me to listen to yours. Lord, when I plead for you to change my circumstances at once, change my heart first. Help me see miracles not only in the moments of rescue, but in every step I still choose to take when I have no strength left. Grant me wisdom to recognize that endurance is not punishment, but grace hidden within the process. Lord, when I want to pull the seed from the soil to check how much it has grown, hold my hand back. Teach me to trust the earth, the time, and all the quiet movements you are working beneath the surface of life. Help me love the days without results, for they are the days that nurture what will one day bloom. Grant me faithfulness to keep sowing even when I do not yet see the sprout. Lord, when I compare myself to those who have already blossomed, remind me that every seed has its appointed time. Keep me from despising the seasons of burial, for you are letting my roots grow deep. Guard me from doubting that you have forgotten me, because delay is your protection from blessings I am not yet strong enough to carry. Lord, grant me the posture of a farmer who knows how to wait for rain in its season. Teach me to sow with trust rather than ambition, to tend the soil with gratitude rather than anxiety. Help me to see that growth does not belong to me but to you. And if I must wait long, teach me to wait in peace, for you never abandon what you have begun. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong community of faith.